that music is, all music is political. Everything is political.
Even Britney Spears?
It's political. Everything is political. See, that's the thing. Like, in this country, like, think about it like this. You have, like, two dominant political parties that people talk about, the Republicans and the Democrats. But ultimately, they are not the party that has been responsible for the American, like, what's happened in this country culturally. The apathetic party is that party. That's who has really dominated our politics. That's how really short-sighted, like, small-minded people get into control of vastly powerful, like, instruments like the government. Like the Republicans, like the Bush administration. I mean, it wasn't that so many people voted for them, or that not enough people voted against them. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it's just like that. So many people just didn't vote because they just felt disconnected entirely. So I think that if you're in a band, I'm not saying every band should sing about politics. I'm really saying that if you're going to engage in expression, whatever you choose to do is a political act. If you're singing about, like, how wonderful things, like how great the government is, and the government, or if you're singing in a way that supports the idea of, like, our society's so great, so wonderful, but meanwhile, like, this country is paying to explode little children in other places, that's a political act. It's just part of the propaganda. Everything is political. Everything you do is political, always. It doesn't mean that you have to walk like you're not on pins and needles. It just means that people should be mindful of how they live and think about what they do. That's all. They should be mindful.
So you do vote?
Of course. Yeah, but I don't vote. I should tell you how I vote. I voted. My first vote was in 1980, and my voting, because I live in Washington D.C. and because I know that the Democrats and the Republicans are essentially like the same, basically. I mean, the government in itself structurally is a problem. The fact that we have to choose between two parties, it just limits the situation, And then you have this really weird, like, red, blue, liberal, conservative, like this kind of weird, like, it's nonsense. Ultimately, there are large, huge, vast amounts of money that are being managed. And the people who are managing it all end up kind of falling into that structure. So you start to recognize what is really happening in Washington, D.C. is, in fact, it's just a big company. It's a giant company. So if you lived in, say, a town where there's like a coal mine, or there's a big garment town, or it's like Detroit and you have auto, or Los Angeles you have Hollywood, or whatever. Each town has like its major dominant industry. In Washington, D.C., that dominant industry is the federal government. So if you are aware of that, then you start to recognize that you think about the effects of that company. Like, what is that company doing? Now, in my mind, whoever ends up being the president of the United States, this country deserves. Now, either they deserve him because they voted for that person, or because they allowed that vote to be robbed, to be cheated. Like, I think almost certainly 2004 was, I think that the Republicans stole that election. Almost certainly. But as a culture, as a people, we allowed them to do it. Because we didn't put up enough of a fight.
What could we have done?
I think if there was enough of a public, people were really against it. Look what happened, say, with Vietnam. I think that people could have put a stop to the madness. I think Vietnam, at some point, the momentum of the people rose up. And in fact, last night may actually be an evidence of that. Can you imagine if Obama had not won?
We just said this at the bus stop. And for conspiracy theorists, that would believe in no voting does not count at all, and they always steal the people who count the votes.
Right.
Is that the Lenin quote? Is that it? They're the only ones who matter, not the voters. So
my point being is that the phone may ring, and I won't answer it unless it's an urgent one. But my point is that whoever is elected to this is what this country deserves. However, the world does not deserve it. The world does not deserve the American president. The world has no vote for or against. The world has no real power, in terms of who ends up running this country. The United States of America has a profound impact on the rest of this world. And the most direct sort of illustration of that power is war. I mean, obviously there's an economic influence, and there's all these other influences that we do, and there's some good things America does, and there's a lot of bad things America does. But the most deeply wrong form of influence that this country has on the rest of the world is war. So I always vote for the person, one of the two possibly elected people who's least likely to go to war. That's how I've always voted.
So you vote for the lesser of two evils?
I vote for the person who's least likely to go to war. They're not necessarily evils. I'm just saying that's what's most important to me. I think that is a fundamental. The two things I would like to see, the war issue. I'm just opposed to all war. So if someone has in their mind, their mentality, that war is actually a way to sort things out. And if you look, for instance, the Bush White House, and what's gone on with this situation, I mean, I have tried in all my speaking to never, formally ever refer to what's happening in Iraq as a war. It is not a war. It is a military action. There's no other side. What? If you ask people, what are the... Sorry. It's my dad.